Karabiner 98K. Developed in Germany in 1934 and standardized on 21 June 1935, the Karabiner 98K descended from the Gewehr 98 through the Standard Modell and the Karabiner 98B. It became the principal Wehrmacht service rifle through the war, despite parallel adoption of self-loading arms. The action is the classic two-lug Mauser M98 with a full-length extractor and fixed ejector. Feeding comes from a 5-round internal magazine charged by standard stripper clips or single rounds. The bolt path is smooth, with positive primary extraction, and the shorter bolt handle reduces snag while aiding rapid cycling under stress. Chambering is 7.92 by 57 mm Mauser. German doctrine standardized on the SS Patron Heavy Spitzer in the 1930s for improved accuracy from the shorter barrel, later shifting much production to SME iron core loads that preserved exterior ballistics inside typical combat distances. Stocks began as one-piece walnut or beech and transitioned to laminated constructions from 1937 for strength and dimensional stability. Metalwork was originally blued. Late rifles received phosphate finishes. Wartime rationalization culminated in Kriegsmodell rifles that deleted the cleaning rod and some small fittings, substituted more stamped components, and simplified machining while preserving function. A tangent rear sight with a V-notch replaced the older Longa system paired with a hooded front post from 1939. Selected rifles carried the ZF-41 1.5 optic to serve a designated marksman role, while true sniper conversions mounted higher power glass on dedicated bases. Production exceeded many millions across numerous coded factories, and the rifle grenade cup, coded receivers, and late-war finish variations became familiar features to collectors and historians. Lee Enfield No. 4 Mk1. The No. 4 emerged in the United Kingdom from the Lee Enfield family and was adopted in 1941 after interwar trials. It became the standard rifle of British and Commonwealth forces during WWII and remained a fixture in service and reserve roles afterward. Mechanically, it uses a rear-locking short-throw bolt that places the knob just behind the trigger, allowing the shooter to run the action while keeping the rifle on target. The dischargeable 10-round magazine is typically charger-loaded from the top in two 5-round strips. The receiver geometry and camming surfaces foster a notably fast cycle compared to front-locking Mauser types, which fed British doctrine for rapid aimed fire. The chambering is .303 British with Spitzer Mark VII lineage, propelling bullets at service velocities suitable for the doctrine of sustained aimed volleys and brisk follow-up shots. Construction was tuned for mass production. Compared with the SMLE, the No. 4 carried a heavier barrel and squarer receiver forms that simplified machining. Wartime No. 4 Mk1 rifles incorporated a simplified bolt release cut and other efficiencies. Receiver-mounted aperture sights give a fast battle aperture at 300 yards and a flip-up ladder with precise increments to 1300. Sniper conversions designated No. 4 in parenthesis T used the No. 32 telescope and were accuracy selected by group standards before conversion.
The action speed, the 10-round capacity, and charger loading supported a very high aimed rate of fire for a bolt rifle, though a rimmed cartridge imposed some feeding sensitivities, and post-war conversions to 7.62 NATO required dedicated programs and new parts. Mosin Nagant M91 30. Russia's 3-line rifle began development in the 1880s and was adopted in 1891. Blending features ultimately dominated by Captain Sergei Mosin's design with a few elements associated with Leon Nagant. The M91 30 modernization in 1930 simplified sights and production while retaining the core system, and it became the Red Army's principal rifle of WWII by sheer volume. The Mosin Nagant M91 30 uses a two-lugged bolt with a 90-degree lift and a push-feed arrangement. The extractor snaps over the rim as the bolt closes, and a fixed ejector trips on the rearward stroke. A 5-round internal magazine feeds from stripper clips, and the receiver evolved from early hex profiles to later round forms as production accelerated. The cartridge is 7.62 by 54 mm R, a powerful rimmed round that delivers high muzzle velocity from the 730 mm M91 30 barrel. Field effective ranges for incite use sit around a half kilometer, with sniper applications extending that envelope using optics. Stocks and receivers were traditional machined steel and hardwood, with increasingly austere finishes as wartime pressure mounted. Sniper programs used PE and PEM optics early and standardized on the PU 3.5x scope from 1942, with bent bolts to clear mounts. The rifle earned a reputation for durability in extreme climates, with straightforward field maintenance and parts interchangeability across vast production. Its mass, length, and 90-degree bolt lift made it slower to cycle than some contemporaries, yet selected sniper rifles produced excellent results in the hands of skilled marksmen. Post-war, enormous stocks entered global service and surplus markets, cementing the Mosin Nagant M91 30 as one of the most prolific service rifles in history. SVT-40. The Soviet SVT program began with the SVT-38 and matured into the SVT-40 in 1940 under Fedor Tokarev. The Red Army intended a widespread shift to semi-automatic rifles, but wartime losses, training demands, and manufacturing realities limited the transition. The rifle uses a short-stroke gas piston and a tilting bolt that locks vertically into the receiver abutments. The SVT-40 introduced a simplified magazine release, a one-piece handguard, and lightning cuts to reduce weight compared with the SVT-38. It chambered the 7.62 by 54 mm R service cartridge, with ballistics that complement semi-automatic operation out to standard infantry distances. Scoped variants employed a PU telescopic sight, although official sniper production scaled back as the war progressed due to stock bedding issues and manufacturing priorities. Stocks were Arctic birch and the receivers steel, with evident interfactory variability. Field reports and later testing frequently noted vertical dispersion tied to stock fit and receiver movement under recoil, and troops sometimes shimmed or reinforced wrist areas to keep bedding stable. The action delivered superior individual firepower to bolt rifles, but required more maintenance and careful training to keep running in adverse conditions.
Production figures across SVT-38 and SVT-40 reached into 7 digits, and select-fire AVT-40 rifles briefly appeared with a modified safety acting as a selector. Those suffered severe controllability and accelerated wear. The series was issued widely to naval infantry and NCOs, and captured rifles were employed by Finland and Germany. Lessons from the ported gas system influenced subsequent German self-loading designs, even as the Soviets ultimately followed different paths with the SKS, AK, and SVD families. Gewehr 43/Karabiner 43. Germany's G41 program struggled with reliability, leading to the adoption of the Walther-developed Gewehr 43 in 1943 and a simple nomenclature shift to Karabiner 43 in 1944. The design uses a short-stroke gas piston with a ported barrel and a flapper-locking bolt head. Feeding is from a detachable 10-round box magazine that can also be charged with standard 5-round stripper clips through the action. The system avoids the G41's muzzle gas complications and runs with far more reliability under fouling and cold conditions. Chambering is 7.92 by 57 mm Mauser, with service velocities that track German ball ammunition in the mid-700 meters per second band. Iron sights are a tangent rear and hooded front, and the rifle frequently appears with the ZF-4 optic that offered a straightforward elevation drum and usable magnification for designated marksman roles. Production was spread across Walther, Berlin-Lübecker, and Gustloff, and late-war steel quality and heat treat variations sometimes affected durability. Field stripping is direct, and the action was gassed generously to ensure function in ice and dirt at the cost of wear. Total output ran into the hundreds of thousands, with a significant share carrying optics from the factory. In service, it offered a genuine boost in individual firepower compared with bolt rifles, but the numbers never approached a full replacement of the Karabiner 98K. Arisaka Type 99. Japan's Type 99 entered production in 1939 to standardize rifle and machine gun ammunition around 7.7 by 58 mm. It is a cock-on closing bolt action with dual front lugs and a massive knurled safety disc at the rear, rotated by pressing and twisting. Early rifles carried a bolt dust cover and a quick-release bolt stop. The integral 5-round magazine feeds from stripper clips, and the bolt handle angle favors clearance around the receiver bridge during cycling. The 7.7 by 58 mm cartridge delivers service velocities in the mid-700 meters per second band. The Type 99 is also noted for chrome-lined bores on early production rifles, an unusual and forward-leaning corrosion resistance measure at the time. Furniture and fittings show the wartime arc. Early rifles exhibit good machining and accessories such as anti-aircraft sight wings and a monopod provision, while late, last-ditch examples omit handguards, substitute wooden butt plates, and display very rough finishes. Sniper versions were produced with optical sights, and a takedown paratroop variant, Type 2, used an interrupted thread joint to separate barrel and receiver. Post-war conversions to other calibers appeared in various programs, and surviving examples often draw interest based on the condition of the imperial chrysanthemum crest and the presence or absence of early accessories.
Johnson M1941. Melvin Johnson's M1941 emerged in the United States as an alternative semi-automatic rifle developed just before the war. Limited quantities saw use with U.S. Marine Corps Paramarines and other specialized units, and Dutch orders placed the design into KNIL channels. Mechanically, it is a short recoil design with the barrel and bolt recoiling together a short distance before a rotating multi-lug bolt unlocks. The rifle feeds from a 10-round rotary magazine that can be topped up at any time with 5-round M1903 stripper clips or loose rounds, including with a round chambered. The standard chambering is .3006 Springfield, delivering expected service velocities and trajectory for a full-power cartridge. The reciprocating barrel, however, shifts mass under recoil and can affect vertical dispersion if bedding or attachments are not consistent. Bayonet mounting induces an extra variable, and several field reports and tests noted shifts in point of impact. Stocks are two-piece, and the rifle contains numerous small parts compared to contemporary U.S. service rifles, which complicated field stripping for inexperienced troops. Production totals remained relatively low, and the line spun into a related light machine gun with shared design principles. In the field, the Johnson received praise for the magazine's capacity and top-up flexibility, while criticisms centered on parts fragility, maintenance sensitivity, and the incompatibility with bayonet doctrine that American forces valued at the time. Carcano M91 38. Italy's Carcano family dates to 1891 under Salvatore Carcano at the Turin arsenal. The M91 38 reflects interwar thinking that typical firefights occurred at nearer ranges, so simplified, fixed-sight short rifles could be issued widely with quicker handling. The action is a turn bolt with a 6-round symmetrical on-block clip. When the last round is fired, the clip drops out of the magazine well, and fresh clips insert smoothly from the top. Early long rifles used gain twist rifling, later variants adopted conventional twist. The principal chambering is 6.5 by 52 mm Carcano with modest recoil and practical field ballistics, often around the low to mid 700 meters per second in long rifles and somewhat less in carbines. Italy briefly standardized the 7.35 by 51 mm cartridge in 1937 with fixed 200-meter sights on M38s, but logistical strain forced to return to 6.5 3 years later. Stocks and hardware reflect extensive multi-arsenal production and wartime expedience. Short rifles and carbines with folding or detachable bayonets proliferated among cavalry and troops who prioritized compactness. Fixed rear sights on many M38s simplified training and production. Adjustable sights remained on long rifles and later M41s. Contemporary and modern testing describes practical service accuracy when the sights are properly zeroed and the correct ammunition is used. Finland received large numbers of 7.35 rifles and altered sighting to bring point of aim to closer distances. The post-war story is extensive: widespread surplus sales, German late-war secondary use, and notoriety from a U.S. assassination that overshadowed the rifle's much longer military career.
MAS-36. France's MAS-36 was conceived between 1927 and 1936 as a robust, economical infantry rifle to replace aging Lebel and Berthier stocks. Far larger numbers were made post-war, and the type served across numerous conflicts and users for decades. The rifle is a two-lug rear-locking bolt action with a short, stiff receiver and a dogleg bolt handle that places the knob close to the firing hand. Feeding is through a 5-round internal magazine charged by stripper clips. In keeping with French practice of the period, there is no separate manual safety. Doctrine was to carry with a loaded magazine and an empty chamber, with the bolt handle capable of blocking the mechanism when raised. Chambering is the rimless 7.54 by 54 mm cartridge derived from the 1920s program, driving bullets at modern service velocities. The compact 575 mm barrel and 1020 mm overall length yield handy carbine proportions. Early metal finishes were oven-baked black. Post-war production leaned into parkerizing for corrosion resistance. The design includes only a handful of user-removable parts to streamline field maintenance. Armorers zeroed rifles at the factory by selecting from multiple rear aperture elements that shift point of aim in fine increments, and they used non-standard front stock fasteners to discourage troop disassembly that would disturb bedding and zero. Aperture sights scaled to 1,200 meters with a protected front post. Later rifles added a hooded front and a simple detent to lock ladder settings. Variants included the CR-39 with a folding aluminum stock for airborne forces and multiple rifle grenade configurations. Soldiers often described the MAS-36 as plain but reliable, with simple upkeep and good resistance to dirt, balanced against the absence of a manual safety and early bayonet stokeworks that were corrected in later production. M1 Garand. The U.S. rifle caliber .30 M1 was designed by John C. Garand at Springfield Armory, standardized in 1936, and produced in quantity by 1941. It became the principal U.S. service rifle of World War II and Korea and was distributed widely to Allies afterward. Mechanically, the M1 is a gas-operated long-stroke piston rifle with a rotating two-lug bolt. The internal magazine accepts an 8-round end-block clip. After the last round, the bolt locks open and the clip ejects automatically. Field stripping is designed to be quick and toolless at the user level. Chambered in .30-06 Springfield, the M1 delivers high service velocities suited to semi-automatic cadence at combat ranges. The 24-inch barrel and sound gas system produce a controllable impulse that lets trained riflemen deliver rapid strings of aimed fire, a clear advantage over most contemporary bolt-action infantry rifles. Receivers and barrels underwent wartime refinements tied to the gas port change, and furniture and small parts followed the usual evolution of large-scale war production. Accessories included bayonets, an M7 rifle grenade launcher with a dedicated sight, and stock-stored cleaning gear. Post-war production continued with additional U.S. contractors, and later conversions adapted the rifle to 7.62 by 51 mm NATO in several programs.
Sights are a robust rear aperture protected by ears, with elevation and windage drums offering approximately minute-of-angle clicks and wing-protected front post. Sniper variants, M1C and M1D, employed different mounting approaches and served into the next conflict. Short-barrel experiments, such as the T-26 and related tanker concepts, illustrated the blast and recoil penalties of reducing barrel length in this system and were not adopted. Thanks for watching. If this was useful, a quick thumbs up and a share with fellow enthusiasts goes a long way. Got ideas for what to cover next? Leave them in the comments and we'll take a look.